Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is a look at a digital deep dive story. So this is something new we're trying where we're kind of going behind the scenes of some of our deeper dives, longer stories where we do a lot of reporting. And my name is Travis Gibson. I'm a digital reporter here at News4JAX. I'm here with Marcela Camargo. She is also a digital producer. You worked so hard and so long on this story that we're going to talk about today. It's a really complex story, so we wanted to hear just a little bit about what all went into the reporting, all the different moving pieces to this very complicated and, truly emotional story. So just to give you a little bit of a preview and take you behind the process, we're going to unpack some of it. So the story features a Jacksonville mom who was accused of medical abuse. She eventually had her daughter taken away from her. So the daughter is now back with the mother, still having some medical issues, but the mother felt like she was a victim during this whole entire process through the hospital and DCF. So she reached out to us. And so first of all, this all kind of started with an email that we got into our newsroom. Tell us, Marcela, just a little bit about that email and why you decided to kind of really dig deep into the story.
Yeah, of course. Well, like you said, this all started with an email from the mom. The email said that she had emailed us many times before because she wanted to share her story. So she claimed that she was falsely accused of medical child abuse. It's also known as Munchausen by proxy. So she just wanted to share her story. But that email instantly took me back to a documentary that I watched back in June. I absolutely love documentaries. So I decided to watch this, documentary called Take Care of Maya. So I'm going back a little bit, but this is really what made me pursue this story. Take Care of Maya is about a Florida girl who has some complex medical issues, and she was removed from her parents' custody because of medical abuse allegations. The mother, Maya's mother, ends up taking her own life because she couldn't deal with the removal of her child. And 5 days later, Maya is returned to her home with her dad. Obviously, the mom was not there anymore. So this has just been a very, very big case. We can get more into that later, but I remember watching this documentary and I had no idea that this was even a possibility. I'm not a parent, but I hope I am one day. And as a future parent, it made me, feel very scared in a way because I didn't know this could happen. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I watched that. And then 2 months later, I come across this email from this mom. And it instantly took me back to this documentary. And obviously, when we're talking about medical child abuse, this is a complex issue. It's a sensitive issue. So that's why it took me so long to write this story because, I had to make sure that I talked to the mother, that I got all sides of this story, and that I really, make the time to review medical records, to review claims from DCF. So yeah, it all started with that one email, but it really started with me watching that documentary.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the story. The story is now live on news4jax.com for anyone that wants to read deeper. But so just give us a little bit of insight into what the mother told you when you first talked to her. You went to her home. She kind of laid out the whole story. She had all of these documents. Like you said, it's a very complex story, but just try to give just a basic summary of what she said happened and then kind of what she went through.
Yeah, so like you said, I first talked to her. I went to her home, and yeah, she had a pile like this big of documents. And so she basically told me that since her daughter was very young, she would have very intense stomach pains. And, she said, as a mother, what do? I try to, get answers. But she said that doctors would say that she's constipated, or, even when she was a baby, just give her like a different formula. So, she tried, she kept looking for answers, and she said locally she couldn't find a treatment that would help Melina's health. So she started looking outside of the state. Then she found doctors in New York. She went to Ohio looking for answers. And, they actually diagnosed her with Lyme disease and PANS.
Which you learned, Lyme disease, very controversial.
Yeah, and
diagnosis.
I actually didn't know. Based on my research, I was like, oh, I did not know this was so controversial. And when I talked to her, she brought that up too, because she said some doctors would back up that diagnosis and others wouldn't, because it's such a controversial topic. And I explained that in my story. So yeah, she basically, was trying to look for answers for her daughter. And then she gets investigated. She gets reported at a local hospital, and then DCF gets involved. So that's how the process works. The hospital reports, a possible case of medical child abuse, and then DCF gets involved, and they're actually in charge of, the investigation and removing a child. So she was investigated one time, the first time, and Terry, she said, I was forthcoming with everything. I gave them all the medical records and, showing authorities that all of the treatments were, prescribed by a doctor, by a professional. So that first investigation, they found the claims were unsubstantiated. So, yeah, they just went away. But then,
that put her on the radar.
Yes.
It was what she was
yeah,
saying,
and
right?
she said, I guess we were flagged. And then, she kept looking for answers for her daughter, and then she gets investigated again. And this time, they actually removed her daughter for, I believe it was around 5 months. And, that brought this whole story and this whole investigation, and her wanting to, show authorities like, hey, I have all these documents. She actually got letters from the doctors who were prescribing these treatments to Melina. And she said that, nothing was changing. She felt like there was nothing she could do to prove her innocence in this case. So, yeah, I guess after 5 months, a judge sided with her, and she was able to get Melina back. That's her daughter.
What were some of the claims that DCF was saying, and some of the things that they were saying that led to that removal?
Yeah, so it was a long list of accusations, but basically they didn't believe that, her daughter's medical issues were real. They thought they were exaggerated. Her daughter also had unusual rage episodes. Terry said she would black out, and that could be related to her PANS diagnosis. But they didn't believe those episodes were real, and they specifically said in the documents that there was no evidence other than Terry's word and Terry's mother. So they said like a lack of witnesses to these medical episodes, and also they just thought it was an exaggeration. They said the constipation issues were exaggerated, and they did agree that, her daughter had chronic pain, depression, anxiety, but the claims were that these were all due to the extensive medical care that her daughter was receiving. So, yeah, those were the allegations against this mother.
So obviously, anytime a child is taken from a home, it's traumatic, right? And she talked a lot about, and you talked to her daughter about how this whole process affected them. A lot of that is in the story, makes it very emotional. What was it like just talking to them and seeing them, hearing that pain?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because, of course, I spoke to Terry, the mother, but being able to talk to the daughter, Melina, that just, made me very emotional. And, hearing what she says she went through was, eye-opening and made me want to, keep pursuing the story because having her side of the story was very important in piecing all of this together. So she's now 19 years old. This was 3 years ago, but they're still dealing with this. And, the daughter told me there's a lot of trauma that stemmed from this experience. So it was definitely very important for me to speak to the daughter, and I was actually in shock that she was able to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So obviously this is a very complicated issue, but there are real cases of medical abuse, Munchausen syndrome. You spoke to an expert and read a lot about the background of it, but it's just very difficult to kind of differentiate and decipher some of these cases. What did you learn through your reporting?
Yes. So, I actually got to speak with Maya Kowalski's lawyer, and he's actually from St. Augustine. His name is Greg Anderson. And we were talking about that because, medical child abuse is real and abuse should be reported. So like you said, this is not a black and white issue. There's a lot of gray. So what this mom wants, and, I talked to this attorney, what they want is to see change in how these investigations are handled. And yes, I did include a lot of research, and I talked about the Gypsy Rose Blanchard's case. She was a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. It's a very famous case. So this is real, and it does happen to families. So this is, not to undermine other people's cases. Mm-hmm. It's just to show that, there's two sides. Mm-hmm. I spoke to the attorney, and he said that the issue is that a lot of these cases have immunity. You cannot really defend yourself. Doctors have immunity in these cases, so it's very hard to prove your case.
Mm-hmm. In the case of Maya, though, there was a very large settlement, correct?
Yeah, it was like $200 million. And this is the first case ever where they could prove a case of medical kidnapping. And the reason, the attorney explained to me, he had to find those loopholes to be able to prove they had a case. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So looking at this case, is she considering any sort of legal action? I mean, obviously she wants to bring about some change and highlight her case. Part of the challenge in journalism is we're not taking sides here. We're not saying one person is right or wrong. We're just presenting a story and highlighting an issue that maybe a lot of people don't know about. Like yourself, we're both learning a lot during the process of this reporting. But is she considering legal actions? Where does she go from here?
Yes, she has been considering legal action since the first day this happened, since she got her daughter removed. But like I said, it is very hard to get a lawyer to take your case because it's very hard to prove because of the immunity. She wants change. She wants to see change in the legislation even. She's tried to speak with, lawmakers, specifically asking for third-party experts to weigh in these cases and, not only go by, what the DCF doctors say or her doctors, but let's bring a third-party expert on this specific illness or disease that's being investigated. Mm-hmm. So some states have actually approved some legislation, like Texas. Now I think they require a third party opinion. So yeah, that's what this mother wants. She said that she's still recovering from all of this, and she just wants to see change and share her story. But like you said, yes, it is. It is not a black and white issue. This is just to bring awareness to something that a lot of people don't know it's happening. I had no idea this was even possible. So that's my intent with sharing the story.
So the daughter, we talked a lot about how there was trauma either way, through some of the pain she went through. She had mental health issues. She was taken away from her mother, but she's just a teenager trying to just go on with her life and be successful. And she wants to kind of advocate for this too. Talk a little bit about her and kind of her hopes for the future and everything going on with her.
Yeah. So like I said, she's 19 years old now, so she's an adult. And she has a part-time job. Well, I talked to her. She's very well spoken. She's a normal young woman with a bright future ahead. She is finishing her GED, and she's trying to figure out what to do next. I asked her, you want to go to college. What are you going to major in? She's like, I'm not sure yet, but there's one thing I'm sure of, and this is what she said. I want to make a difference, and I want to advocate for others that have gone through the same experience as me. She said that she felt lucky in a way that she was, older when she went through that experience. So she was able to ask questions to make up her own mind on things. But she said, I feel for, maybe children that go through this when they're very young. They don't really understand what's going on. So she just wants to help other children that have gone through the same experience as her. And yeah, she's not sure what she's going to do, but she just knows she wants to make a positive impact. Mm-hmm.
Well, she was very brave to share her story with you. And you did a lot of reporting on this. Like we said, over 6 months of reporting in between doing our regular jobs, making phone calls, running the story by lawyers to make sure everything is up to date, talking to the hospital that was involved, DCF, trying to get information from them. So it's a really well-reported story, a really interesting story. Like I said, you can read the entire story right now on News4JAX.com. There's lots of videos in there to hear from the daughter and the mother. So thank you for taking time with me to talk about this.
Of course, yes. Thank you.